I have Spider-Man Homecoming, and usually I am crazy stoked about Marvel movies, but unfortunately I feel like there was something about this movie that made it not rise to the top of my list. So a little intellectual property nerdery right now. Sony owns Spider-Man, but he's originally a Marvel character. Mm-hmm. So in the past few years, Sony and Disney/Marvel came to an agreement where they finally agreed to let Spider-Man appear in the Marvel movies because he's this huge part of Civil War, which is this huge thing that Disney and Marvel have been setting up for the past few years. So it was a really interesting, two titans of industry, actually coming together, and I feel like trying to, do service to the fans. In light of that, we got our first Spider-Man movie of this new generation. There have been 6 Spider-Man movies in the last 15 years. He's been played by 3 different actors, Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, and now Tom Holland. So Tom Holland first appeared in Captain America Civil War as Spider-Man. It was just woo, oh my God, Spidey's on screen. So this is, again, Spider-Man Homecoming is his first kind of film on his own, and it's not really an origin story. So they just kind of drop you into it. So if you haven't seen the other Marvel movies, and keep in mind there have also been about almost a decade worth of those, it's a little, what's going on here? Spider-Man's a pretty well-known character, so it's not super hard to pick up, but they don't address there's one comment about, oh yeah, I was bitten by a spider.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that, we're just going to buy that? Nobody's going to quit. Okay, I guess we live in the world of superheroes now. So Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau appear as Iron Man and Happy Hogan, respectively. And so they are from the Marvel Universe. They're showing up in this film. So again, it was very interesting. I think they're trying to rely a lot on Robert Downey Jr.'s charm and, the Iron Man persona. And I feel like they're so tied at this point. I just assume that Robert Downey Jr. is secretly Iron Man and has a flight suit somewhere. So I guess, again, Tom Holland just kind of is Spider-Man, and we don't spend a lot of time on backstory. I usually complain about having seen too many origin stories recently, especially of the remake ones, but this one I was I feel like I actually could have used more.
Yeah, you wanted a little bit more because it's the fun of it. I want a reason
to like Tom Holland. He's a charming kid, but I was the way it starts is it picks up in the middle of the events of Captain America Civil War, and we actually see how he got brought into it. So again, they're trying to do a backstory, but it's just sort of, if you didn't know what Captain America Civil War was, what's the point?
Yeah, sure. I don't know.
Anyway, the other half of this movie is basically a John Hughes high school film. That stuff was great. It was really funny. It was really fun. I thought all the stuff with Tom Holland, this kid Jacob Batalon, who's his friend Ned, and there's nerdy kids. I was like, this is fun. It's adorable. They did a really good job playing high schoolers. There's awkward girl drama. Zendaya's in it. So they're definitely, I think, aiming this one towards a younger crowd. And then, of course, but then you have Michael Keaton as the villain, because the kids will definitely know who Michael Keaton is.
Yeah.
And he's playing Vulture, which is not a spoiler. So apparently he can only play Birdman from now on because he was in Birdman.
Yeah.
I was just I guess you just really like those types of roles now.
And how crazy, he is Batman.
I know.
For us,
I think the rules are completely off on appearing in either universe at this point because there's now so much random crossover that it's just I guess anyone's allowed to be anything, and there's only a very small pool of actors who are superheroes now. We can't find anyone new, apparently. But I do think that Marvel has a villain problem, and Michael Keaton as the Vulture, he's a great actor, but it was just, he was not a special villain until halfway through. And I just remember at some point, somebody behind me literally went, twist, when they finally gave us a reason to actually be invested. But I can't be an hour and 15 minutes into a movie and not be invested in the villain. It's just too much of my time to string me along like that. They almost solved the villain problem, but again, I think it took too long to get there. People are saying this is one of the best movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I don't know if that's true because it just drops you in. And so I feel like it's this weird kind of outlier. And anyway, I got a little frustrated by that. So I'm I don't think you can actually consider it one of those. It's just kind of a tangent and a side story to all of it. And I cannot believe I'm going to say this, but there's been 3 major superhero movies this summer. One is a DC one and 2 have been Marvel, and I think I actually like the DC one the most. I think I like Wonder Woman the most so far.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, girl, you got to.
And it's funny because, again, that's an origin story, and I feel like part of the challenge is Spider-Man fatigue, right? Again, haven't seen Wonder Woman on screen a ton the past 15 years. Constantly seeing Spider-Man on screen. I'm stop and they're not even reinventing it. That's the other thing, right? It's not different enough per character to make me go yes, this is why we needed this. He does keep Benjamin buttoning and getting younger. So at least Tom Holland is closer in age to what Peter Parker's supposed to be. I think he's 20. He's playing a 15-year-old, and Tobey Maguire's 35 by the time the third one rolled around. So at least he's getting a little less creepy on that account. It was still an enjoyable film. It runs a bit long, so especially if you have kids, and it is relatively kid-friendly. Oh, this is my other frustration. The action did not build, right? So Spider-Man has his powers, whoop-de-doo, gets a new suit, yay. that's it. I was like, he learned some things, but I feel like most of them come from like, not him organically learning these things. And at least the very first Spider-Man film with Tobey Maguire did a good job of like him coming into his powers and him like figuring things out. And like Tom Holland is already this like little spider monkey Spider-Man who like is acrobatic and stuff like that. So I'm like, well, there's no like struggle for you.
I really enjoyed the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man because it was the first time that in my opinion, that CGI was really there and able to make it look cool. Because for us, like Star Wars looked ridiculous, not to be mean, or even going back to like some of my favorites, like the original Ghostbusters, the CGI was horrifically bad. I mean, to a point where it's funny now if you watch it. And at least with the first Spider-Man, I felt like it looked cool.
I will disagree with you on Star Wars because I think the CG for the time, because they used a lot of practical effects, was very cool. And also they were like just creating those effects, right? Like nobody had ever seen a Ghost Jedi before.
It was like 1977, right?
But it's interesting you say that because the CGI in this one, it's been 15 years, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it was better. It reminded me of that very first Spider-Man where it was very like, it was fine at the time. And it was like, okay, it's very like CG, jump building to building, building to building. I'm like, okay, it's been 15 years. Technology has advanced so much. We have like pure CG characters. We have movies coming out that have purely CG characters. Like the whole cast is CG. Like War for the Planet of the Apes. Almost all the characters are CG for most of it. And they like are amazing and emotive and things like that. And I was just like, this Spider-Man feels like a video game, which I was really kind of shocked by because all the other Marvel movies are excellent with their effects. So I was like, I'm not quite sure what happened here. And I was like, did you run out of time? Did you run out of budget? Like what's going on? Part of it's because he's very colorful and he's in this like very suburban neighborhood. But yeah, so that was one of the things I noticed. And I was like, why?
Why isn't it better?
It's been 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, get better at these things.
All right, so Spider-Man Homecoming, what are you giving it?
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5 because it was still enjoyable. I'm still a sucker for superhero movies. I think people are really going to enjoy it. But I think I had higher expectations, and I think my expectations were too raised. And so, I think that actually made it like less than a perfect film for me. So 4 out of 5.